Hi, Trinity Avenue homicide. This is a case where it started about 11 o'clock in the morning. There was a call concerning domestic violence. Police officers responded. The woman who was there alone claimed that she had been assaulted by her husband or by this male. They took a report, the crime report, and a domestic incident report. Later, last night, around 11 o'clock, there's a burglary call to that location. Police officers respond. The door is ajar. In the apartment is the body of an individual with a pillowcase over his head. His hands and feet are tied with duct tape. The cause of death is yet to be determined. I think the body may still have not been totally examined. Right now, the officers or the detectives are talking to the woman who lived in the apartment.
What precinct was that, Commissioner?
It's the 4-2, I believe. 4-2.
Commissioner, there was a report in the paper today about about the 911 calls made by David Johnson's ex-girlfriend. At what point did the officers from the 47th precinct realize that he worked for the governor? It seems unclear. And at what point were you informed that this man worked for the governor?
No. I don't know if they ever knew that. This matter is under investigation by the Attorney General. Obviously, we'll cooperate with the Attorney General, but I'm not certain the officers ever determined that.
And also, any update on the...
How concerned are you that the state police may have interfered with a woman of domestic violence that was under the purview of an NYPD investigation?
Yeah, I'm going to let the Attorney General do the examination of this issue. We'll wait for the Attorney General.
Can you discuss
before I comment on that aspect?
Can you discuss the sequence of events of like you guys responded, took a report, and what can you talk about in terms of the NYPD role in all of this?
The initial report was on Halloween, the complaint of assault or violence. Officers responded. They took a complaint report, prepared a domestic incident report, took a handwritten statement from the complainant, attached that to the report. The next day, the domestic violence officers, each precinct has a team of domestic violence officers, responded to the location. There was no one home. They responded another time. They went there. I'm led to believe that the officers were told by the complainant that she had obtained an order of protection and that it was served.
Commissioner,
why wasn't
Commissioner, according to the report in the Post, during the series of 911 phone calls that the victim made, at one point she did say he works for the governor, at least according to the.
I haven't heard the 911 tapes. I don't know if that's the case.
Is there a protocol during that for an operator to, once a case has been flagged as having some sensitivity, that it would, maybe a supervisor would be sent to the scene, or that the officers would be informed?
No, I know no protocol.
Should there be one?
That someone works for the government?
Should there be a
someone works for the
protocol?
government? I'm not clear what your question
Well,
is.
if somebody, during a phone call that is of a sensitive nature, that it involves either a political official or government official, should there be some protocol where that is flagged to the officers who are responding and maybe to a superior officer?
For what purpose?
Just in case, to make sure the case is handled properly.
Well, we would hope all cases are handled properly. I don't know if you need a special protocol to, and I don't know how you define who requires special attention. I'm not certain that that's an issue.
Can you comment
Commissioner,
on
with
machete?
the family court transcripts that appear to show the woman complained to the family court that she was being harassed by the state police. Should the family court, in a case like this, should the family court report this to the police department? Was the police department ever informed that a woman of domestic violence, who claims domestic violence, is being harassed by a law enforcement agency?
Okay. I'm going to let the Attorney General go forward with the examination, and we'll make our appropriate comments after the Attorney General
in terms of the investigation,
puts out his report.
in terms of the investigation for the assault, I mean, why wasn't he ever arrested? I mean, could he still be arrested for this crime?
Well, again, I'm going to let the Attorney General's investigation go forward. I'm not going to speculate. We are hopefully will be able to do our examination of the issue after the Attorney General interviews the responding officers today. All of the information, all the material subpoenaed by the Attorney General has been turned over to
And the responding officers are being interviewed today? So,
Yes.
and in terms of,
Can you comment on the man who was yielding the machete to the police officers?
Yeah, at about 11 o'clock last evening, there was a call to 911 in the 67th precinct. A young woman, a 17-year-old girl, called. She was trapped in her back bedroom. She was having a dispute with her father. The call came over as a dispute with a knife. Officers responded, 4 officers, the sergeant, his driver, and 2 impact officers responded. They walked into the building. They were able to get into the building because another tenant was opening the door. They went in and they knocked on the door of the apartment. The male opened the door, saw it was the police, closed the door. Police officer who was in front of the sergeant put his foot in the door, saw the individual with a machete, had it over his head, lifted it over his head. The officer had his mace. He took out his mace canister, pushed the door open, and maced the individual. It did not have any effect. He started to swing at the officer. The officer fell back. The sergeant, who was standing right behind the officer, fired shots at the individual. He was struck. We're not certain the amount of times he was hit because sometimes there's entry and exit wounds, but he has 6 wounds. He's in stable condition now in not in Kings County Hospital, but in Brookdale Hospital, and he was struck in the legs and the side.
Commissioner, another subject was an attempted auto theft in, sorry.
Any update on Patrick Alford, the kid that went missing in Star City? Any update?
It is a very perplexing and difficult issue for us. Patrick Alford is still missing. We have conducted 14,000 interviews, have entered 9,000 apartments, have had 24 tips, which is a small number of tips in this regard, have done 5 polygraph interviews. We are continuing to canvass the appropriate neighborhoods, both in Staten Island and in Brooklyn. We ask anybody with any information to call our tips hotline, 1-800-577-TIPS. But it is a very vexing problem. We're obviously concerned about the safety of this young man, but so far, it's certainly not for a lack of effort, but so far we haven't been able to turn him over.
Is there a
Commissioner, do you
leading
have any
theory?
update?
No, we've explored our theories.
Do you have any update
Commissioner,
on
on
this
another
cab
subject,
driver?
there was
Yes,
an
sir.
attempted auto theft in Queens, and it seems that the owner of the car, while trying to stop the person that he believed was stealing the car, that subsequent to that, the suspect, if I could call him that, apparently died. At this point, it doesn't seem like any charges are being brought. Do you think charges will be brought, or do you think that the car owner acted properly, however tragically this may have ended?
Well, we are working with the district attorney in this regard. We'll work with the court to see if, in fact, this case should go before a grand jury. But you're right. The reports are that this individual who owned the car saw someone trying to steal his car, rummaging through his car. He did grab him about the head in a headlock, punched him in the head. He admits to all of this. He's made video statements and written statements to this effect, and returned all that information over to the district attorney, and he's proceeding with it.
What about the pillowcase you mentioned?
I'm sorry, sir?
You mentioned something about a pillowcase over his head?
No, that was the case in the 42nd precinct.
Oh, okay.
Any updates on the